We'll now move on to a presentation sharing more information about how the township utilized the American Rescue Plan Act funding, or ARPA funding. Assistant Township Manager and Finance Director Amy Cuthbertson will be leading the presentation. Ms. Cuthbertson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This month, we will mark the 5th anniversary of the COVID-19 pandemic becoming more than something we heard on the news and something that instead affected our daily lives for quite a long time. While Dave will touch on some of the human elements our community endured during his remarks, tonight we're primarily here to once again remember the generational financial byproduct that came from the pandemic, which was the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. One facet of the American Rescue Plan Act was the state and local fiscal recovery funds that went by the acronym SLRF, which is fun to say if you just try it, it is. During this program, states, local governments, county governments of all shapes and sizes all over the United States were awarded various degrees of financial funding through the federal government to assist in their recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. The very brief summary of what SLRF was to support the response to and recovery from the COVID-19 public health emergency. For Haverford's position in this, we received $19.8 million allocation. That was based on our size, our population, and like I said, every community throughout the United States received something. Sometimes it was through their county. A lot of our smaller neighbors, they were pass-throughs with the county being the recipient. We were a direct recipient, again, due to our size and scope. There were 5 specific purposes, and some of this will sound familiar to everybody because we have been talking about this and trying to keep it out on the forefront since it happened. But there were 5 acceptable purposes with emphasis on disproportionately affected populations. So women, children, veterans, minorities of any sort were considered disproportionately affected populations. Public health, negative economic impacts, premium pay, infrastructure, which specifically was wastewater, stormwater, and cable, that kind of infrastructure, and revenue replacement. If you remember back in July of 2021, we solicited public input from our residents as to what to do with this money. And in the spirit of transparency, we pretty much did every spending of money was approved through a resolution. And yes, that did lengthen a lot of meetings for the last 2 years, but we thought it was the right thing to do to just have it out on the forefront as to where the money was going. And if you'll remember, there were 2 basic rules. Number 1 was to obligate all funds by 12/31 of 24. Obligate meant to have it under a contract, a purchase order, something specific, not just a budget or a memo or anything. It had to be specifically under obligation, and it all has to be spent by December 31st of 2026. Since we got the money, the first part coming in, I believe it was the summer of 2021, we have been doing ongoing quarterly reporting to the U.S. Treasury. It's a report that's about 80 pages long, and it describes every project that we do, how much money we spent in that quarter, how much we've cumulatively spent, and how it affected our response to COVID-19. All these monies also go through specific and separate single audit procedures by our independent auditors, which they are actually visiting this week for their annual visit. And a single audit is like I said, it's a special, more in-depth audit of certain funding sources, and ARPA has been one of those funding sources looked at more in-depth the past 3 years. So I'm going to take you just through a brief spending summary, and then this is more of a group presentation. You'll see lots of different voices come up and explain how these monies affected their particular areas. So the spending summary, investments by category, those 5 categories that I just talked about. The first column is actual dollars spent. So you can see we actually spent $11.5 million by 12/31 of 24. And we have another 8.3 roughly obligated to spend by the end of 26. And that brings us to our total allocation, which was 19.4. Under administrative, you can see the only thing we used under the administrative category was our check stock. So I think that was wise of us, so the money could be spent in other areas throughout the township that could need it, as evidenced by those other categories. In a more picture format, under public health, we used 24% for public health. We used 20% for negative economic impacts. We used 2% for premium pay, 17% under the infrastructure category, and 42% under revenue replacement. I will say revenue replacement did take the lion's share of where our spending went, but it's under that category where our fire apparatus is and items like that, the stadium monies that went to that. So that's why that appears to be a little higher. The first category we are going to look at is public health. That was $4.7 million and 24% of our spending. That is the primary definition, funding to respond to the public health emergency created by COVID-19, including ways to prepare our response to a future. Just a little to expand on that a little bit. Public health obviously meant physical prevention of a pandemic, the current pandemic and any future pandemic, but it also covered any mental health. It covered children, their response, their lack of education that they lost out on. It encompassed park improvements, anything that would give us, in the event of another pandemic, give us access to outside that we didn't have before, or to make outside activity more accessible. So we are going to have, for this category, our first speaker is going to be Jim McCanns, about how ARPA monies were invested in our emergency medical response.
Good evening, Commissioners. All right, our first step was to do community CPR classes. As you may remember, that we had a rather robust attempt at getting a number of classes to the public. We know that through research that this is the best way for us to address preventable death. Through CPR and stop the bleed classes, depending on which age category we're talking about. And we accomplished that. We have 112 civilians that were certified in CPR through those classes. The next step was to add additional AEDs, automatic external defibrillators. We had 20 units delivered to the police, 20 to the fire departments, and we took the existing AEDs and we're repurposing them into public places. What's excellent about these CR2 devices, the new AEDs, which are the white ones you see there, which are replacing the yellow one in the black case, is they are compatible with our new monitoring systems that we have in both our medic units and our 2 ALS trucks. So they are compatible. We don't need to interrupt CPR. We can just plug right into the pads that are already in place by whomever placed the AED. So we, in the upgrade for the police, the old police monitors, we cleaned them up, have put new cases on them, and those cases include a CPR support kit, which you can see what's supplied in that kit, a Narcan kit, and information in that Narcan kit on recovery, as well as the actual doses to give to somebody if need be. And we have distributed them to certain places so far that have asked us for them, and we've, including the Legion Hall over on Ralston and the one on Manila Road, among numerous other places. And then when we talk about actual EMS devices to the EMS providers, the power lift system and the upgrade of the patient litters, gurney or cot, depending on what part of the U.S. or what era you were from. But the new litters that we have are electric powered. They can lift up to 700 pounds, and not just pick up 700 pounds, it can comfortably transport somebody who's of a larger body habitus. It also has an extra wheel locking and pivot blocking system that prevents the litter from rolling away. Not that I've ever experienced it, but I have walked outside and felt rather lonely looking for the litter to see it on the neighbor's lawn across the street, but allegedly it's happened. So we do have that system, and what's really excellent about the system, Stryker has addressed the topic of tipping over. It's very difficult to have that much weight up high where we're pushing somebody and keep it stable on unstable surfaces. Even like at a hospital where maybe there's like a crack or crevice in the driveway or what have you, it prevents tipping by keeping the center of gravity much lower. So now that's coupled with the power load system. The power load system actually grabs the litter, lifts up the bottom carriage, and we bring it inside the ambulance, locks it into place, and charges the litter when we're either plugged into Shoreline or driving. This has been tremendous for our EMS providers. It takes a load. We have much less back injuries because of this. Coupled with that, and I forgot to put in here, I apologize, is the stair chair system for going up and down steps. I think you saw a demonstration of that before. That couples into this system as well. We replaced our video laryngoscopes. We were a department that had these in place during COVID, and it reduces the exposure of the provider significantly in that we can achieve direct, we can view the laryngoscopy on the video screen as opposed to direct by putting our faces down and looking into the airway. We also do not have to interrupt CPR as we can continue doing this. We only ever interrupted because of the exposure to the paramedic who was intubating. So we have replaced those, and we repurposed the other ones, the McGrath, so the system that it replaced, to the Haverford or the Harrisburg Area Community College Nurse Anesthetist program, and we gave it to them at a rate of $500 a unit. So they purchased it off of us for that for a total of $1,000. We received the Life Pack 35s. I think you've seen them on demonstration. 15 cardiac leads, all those things there that can do, but it also has room for upgrade. So we can, in the future, it looks like they will be able to add a direct laryngoscopy video system as well as perhaps ultrasound for EMS. And our 2017 Ford truck is out to be refurbed. So they will take the back off of that ambulance, put it on a new chassis, and there's a huge backup in our industry on these getting turned around. But I'm working with Mr. Passetti, and we are putting a lot of pressure on our dealer, and it looks like we may have a couple solutions to getting that in more quickly. But as of right now, they are predicting November to have that back in service. So that's a real stretch. These ambulances are taking a beating, but we are, I think we may have a workaround on that. All right. Any questions on any of this? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next two speakers are going to take us through what we did with Parks and Rec, Brian Barrett and Eileen Matola.
Thank you, Amy. So I'm going to summarize the park improvements that the township made using the ARPA funds. Just to give a little background and context to this, the projects that were funded go back to a presentation that the Parks and Rec Department did in 2018, identifying capital projects that needed some attention, and they identified approximately $5.5 million in capital projects at that time. From the proceeds of the 2018 bond issue, the township invested approximately $2.6 million in park improvements between 2019 and 2022, and those projects are listed here. Some significant ones were the Pensy Trail extension design, tennis court work at 4 different courts, and sidewalks and pathways throughout the township, along with some other things throughout the parks system. The ARPA funding was approximately $3 million for improvements at our parks, and these projects included the Brookline Park redevelopment, the Darby Creek Trail extension, lights at McDonald Field and Carracung Field, basketball courts at Grange, Preston, Grassland, and Hilltop, tennis courts at Elwell and Grassland, play equipment throughout the townships, and pavilion repairs and backstops at Grange, Elwell, and Paddock. This isn't all of them, but this is the lion's share of them because there was a lot of projects done over the last 2.5 years. And some of this money, as Amy said earlier, still needs to be funded. I want to take just a moment to talk about the Brookline Park project. That got a good bit of funding, $750,000 from the ARPA funding. That project allowed us, that funding allowed us to do a master plan for the Brookline Park. And that master plan is visualized here on the screen. But that would not have been possible without the ARPA funding. So this is a a project that, was basically a blank slate, and through a lot of neighborhood engagement, community engagement, we were able to come up with a plan that we thought would work well with this site. And as you may know, last fall, the township received an additional $850,000 from the state for this project, which will allow us to continue into phase 2. Actually, I'm going to hand it off to Eileen.
I have the more fun part. These are the before and after. So this is Grassland Park, so that's before. Oh, darned. Okay, I got it. Okay, and this is after. So Commissioner McCluskey had a number of nearby residents to Grassland Park ask him when some of the very old equipment would be replaced. So we met with a group of neighbors and a 10-year-old boy who had very good opinions. And together we chose this piece. So this is kind of a cool piece with the sunshades, and that looks great. Lawrence Road Park. So for anyone who doesn't know, Lawrence Road Park is the alley behind Linwood, across the street from Linwood, the houses. There's an alley and there's a little park, and you can see that piece is decrepit and no longer met standards. So we replaced that. Grange Park. So Commissioner Hart had been contacted by Penfield Civic to replace the large composite at Grange. This piece was actually, this picture's from 2019, so the middle pods were no longer there because they had been broken and we couldn't replace them. We really tried to make repairs, and then we had a couple meetings with the Civic, and this new piece was chosen, and Melissa picked the colors. Richland Farms. Okay, look at this. So all around town, we have paved areas. Maybe there was decrepit basketball court, maybe it was a tennis court. So we had to think of how to reuse them. We met with Hilltop Civic, and we did a much-needed complete overhaul of Richland Farms. So looking at the space, the Civic wanted it to appeal to the very young. They found a painter, a house painter, and he volunteered his time, and they put that cool track on it, and it also has like a stop sign and a yield sign. Okay, Merry Place. Okay, so Merry Place is our unique park that is designed and constructed for all ages and abilities, especially those with special needs. So Brian and I met with a couple vendors, but we really wanted to have we couldn't do something typical. We really wanted to get some wow piece. And I think we did that with this slide. That slide, it's hard to tell in the picture, but 3 adults could go down that at the same time. So that's pretty cool. Uh-oh. Okay. Okay, here's Preston Basketball Court. In 2023, we met with Commissioner Cavender, Brynford Civic, and neighbors of Preston to look at the entire park. We did do over this basketball court at Preston. It's similar to the do-over. We did a Coopertown, Merwood, Bailey, Westgate, Hilltop, Grassland. So now almost all of our basketball courts that get the most use look like the one over here at Preston.
I'm just going to do a quick wrap up here. So this is something we said back in 2018 when we did our capital presentation, that investing in our parks is good for the township. It improves local economy, increases property values, connects us to nature, strengthens community, enhances our health. And again, that health feature was one of the reasons that ARPA money was allocated for public health, community recreation. In 2022, the township received a grant from Delaware County to do a parks, recreation, open space plan. What we got from that plan is a lot of civic engagement, a lot of surveys completed, a lot of participants showing up at community meetings, and we were in the middle of this capital plan program, and we were able to say what we had planned on doing, and the feedback from the community was overwhelmingly positive about investing in our parks, investing in our trails, investing in our recreation. So I just want to say that I think the community very much supports what we have done in Parks and Recreation and township-wide and a lot of these other projects. So I'll just leave you with that last thought.
Just due to timing constraints, we couldn't highlight everything. So just to summarize a couple of the other things, the Safe Streets for All study, which is still in progress. The recreational programming for neurodiverse children, we did that last summer, and we'll continue to do it again this summer to offer summer programming for children of all abilities. We did social programming for seniors. We awarded two $25,000 grants, if you recall. One was to Kelly Music for Life. They put on a senior prom, if you will. And the other was to Haverford Township, the adult school, to get seniors back out, because that was one of the biggest and saddest things was how it affected our seniors, and we tried to get them back out re-socializing with each other. We're in the midst of the Township Line and Farwood sidewalk installation to promote walking in the area. The library renovation is also partly under economic, partly under the health, so we'll talk about more of that as we go on. And the senior re-socializing events that the township sponsored. We are doing game nights under the leadership of our Park and Rec department. The seniors really seem to love that. We had open houses, we do the health expo, so we tried ourselves also to get our seniors back out and mingling with each other. Negative economic impacts is going to be our next topic. We spent $3.7 million or 20% on this. Obviously, this doesn't need a lot of explanation. There was a lot of negative economic impacts, whether it was to people personally, the job losses, the job furloughs, the job layoffs, businesses that couldn't open until it was safe again. Foot traffic that wasn't in areas like our own business districts just didn't have the foot traffic that they once did. So we spent a lot of money here trying to reinvigorate that. Discover Haverford helped us a lot along the way in this area, so Jean Angel is here to talk about a lot of the programs that she and her staff spearheaded for us.
Thanks. So thanks for inviting me to present on the programs that we're here to support our businesses. So the first grant that the township, this isn't the first grant, but one of the grants that the township provided were the grants to women and minority-owned businesses. And that included $10,000 grants to 10 different businesses in a competitive process. So the grants covered costs for renovations, marketing, rent, facade work, staffing, and more. The facade grant program provided $223,000 to 21 businesses for matching facade grants. I've presented on this before, but I just wanted to remind you of a couple of the highlights. So we have the Bakery House, and this is Gans Plumbing. This is the Ivy Inn and Pepperoncini. Here we've got the Victoria Arms Apartment. This is right next to Brookline Fire Company. The Wynwood Lanes, Metro Insurance, and this is Busted Saddle Sign, but this was done by Sustain Realty, so they completed a bunch of work along there with signs on the sides and then a sign for each of the storefronts. We also more recently did the Business Revitalization and Modernization Grant Program, which provided $224,000 to 10 businesses for interior or exterior work. So these are, this is a presentation I wasn't able to give, so I'm going to give you a little more detail here. So Yard Pub got a new HVAC system. Brew Your Own Beer got a new hot water heater, HVAC system, and a new commercial sink. They like to do workshops on beer brewing, so that was important for them. Adam Dye Dental got a new air compressor for their dental work. Sampan Inn, a new roof and an under-counter fridge. Rita's Water Ice did roof repair, painting, new patio, and a repaired sign. House Cup got new indoor and outdoor seating and a new cold brew system. Centrellas did facade work and repair of their brick oven. In the Fringe, the new signage and a new door, I think a couple new doors, and the creation of a sewing classroom. Wavelengths Hair Salon, so they did some exterior work. There was a new awning, trimmer on the windows, and then all of that furniture, the white salon chairs and those other chairs, and all of that is all brand new and looks beautiful. Havertown Health and Fitness, this is one of my favorites because I've been watching that sign peel and fall off for years. So I think this new sign and the painting, the whole facade looks great. And then they also copying, in a sense, what Ivy had done, they said, well, maybe we would like to do a mural. And so I think they did a great job of highlighting the history of the Brookline Theater. Other business support included 2 jobs fairs and the Keep It Local gift card program. We did a buy one, get one promotion for the holidays. Parking study, monies were obligated to manage a comprehensive study of the parking situation in our business districts. This study will review the existing parking additions, benchmarking against best practices, recommending innovative strategies, and outlining a detailed implementation plan. In terms of streetscaping, the second block in Oakmont South was completed, or nearly completed. So this is what it looked like originally, and then what it looks like now. This is what it will look like when the new streetlights are in. It looks really such an amazing transformation. We also were able to hire an outside contractor to do the planting and watering of the 80 planters in our business districts. And they really look beautiful. 40 new bike racks were purchased. Only a handful have been installed yet, but that's going to be amazing. New trash cans and benches were put in Brookline, Minoa, Lanark, and Oakmont, and then flags celebrating small businesses along Eagle Road between Darby and Lawrence. 35 plus trees were planted along Westchester Pike between Darby Road and Eagle Road. That's really a heat island there. So once those trees are bigger, that'll be great. And then you also supported Discover Haverford. Obviously, we serve businesses, so helping us to grow was very important. So you funded a third part-time, so we're all part-time, but you funded a third part-time staff member for 3 years. That was Sarah Cazella. And increasing staff capacity has helped us to become more sustainable. So if you can see, in 2020, we had 167 sponsors, bringing in 25,000. By 24, it was 221 sponsors, bringing in 43,000. And we also added fundraising events. Between our several fundraising events, we made $60,000 in profit over the past 3 years. So we couldn't have done that without Sarah. And so that was a terrific benefit. Other economic impacts, the Senior Widow Disabled Economic Recovery Payment Program provided $500 payments to low-income persons within those groups. The library renovation, Darby Road Streetscape Phase 3, 4 years of business district beautification to attract customers to our stores, 2 years of prospective funding for Discover Haverford. And that's right. Thank you, Ray. I just want to say, I'm sorry. I just want to thank you guys because, I mean, I think the things that you did to help our business community, amazing. When I've talked to other communities and they say, well, how did you run that facade program? How did you do that? And I say, well, that's because our commissioners supported, felt that the business community was important enough. And so from the facade work and the streetscaping and then the individual grants you give to business, I just want to thank you for that.
There was one program that I apologize, it was the first slide and I swam by it, but it was one of the best programs we did, and that was the Back to Business grant program. That was the first program we did. We gave $2,500 payments to any business headquartered in Haverford Township that showed a loss in revenues. And that was nearly 100 businesses took advantage of that. So I know they were very appreciative of that at that time when it was extremely rough for them. And also another one that was probably a favorite, especially with our seniors, was the one Jean alluded to, the $500 payments to our low-income seniors, widow, disabled persons. That was very well received by everybody who received that. So much that we had several requests, were we going to do that again? But we had to graciously say no. But a lot of residents took advantage of that as well. Premium pay is, Dave, you want to touch on premium pay?
That's right, I forgot. The premium pay was money that was provided to the folks who were working through the pandemic, particularly the public works employees who were out there collecting trash. And, if you think back to that, when nobody knew how you were going to get COVID or how you could avoid it, And so there was premium pay for them, for the volunteer firefighters, and there were some comp time awarded for other employees that were working through the pandemic.
Thank you. Our fourth category is infrastructure, where we spent $2.5 million or 17%. As I said, infrastructure was very narrowly defined, but for us, it worked out fine because we had a lot of needs in the areas that were allowed. So wastewater, drinking water, stormwater, and to expand access to broadband, with our biggest needs being wastewater and stormwater. With Pannoni being part of any and all of those projects, Dave is going to present about all the details there, okay?
Yep. So as Amy mentioned, they kind of break it out pretty nicely into three categories. Sanitary sewer, which is wastewater, right? That's your domestic and industrial waste. Stormwater, which is your runoff. And then we have miscellaneous projects, which are relatively diverse, as our township is diverse. So I'm going to talk about the storm sewer first, and you're only going to see so many pictures of pipe and manholes and backhoes, but so I thought it would be really good just to see how many we had. You can see there were 9 different projects, and they were spread out very well across the township. See if this cursor can point to anything. So these first 3 jobs were publicly bid, separate projects. I'm going to show some pictures of them, but Woodcrest and Brookline were 2 very busy streets in terms of sanitary sewer. Big main, old pipe, a lot of laterals. The next ones, 4 through 8, were emergency projects. That's what we were talking about earlier with our emergency contract. Danny and his group were integral in every one of them. They were a mix, everything from a very tough sanitary sewer project, the township line in West District Pike in front of the U-Haul. Everybody knows how busy that area is, to a manhole replacement right there at Darby Road and Eagle Road. That really shows you why we have emergencies. You just can't wait 190 days or 120 days to repair those areas. The last one was a little bit unique over off the number 9, over off the Darby Road area. This pointer doesn't want to cooperate. We had a tough area where our sanitary sewer was backing up an inordinate amount, and we televised and cleaned over 5,000 feet of pipe and pulled about 8 to 10 cubic yards of grit and grime out of that system. So just to give you a feel from a pictorial standpoint, Woodcrest, I mentioned it before, you could see every one of those soft lines perpendicular to the road is a property. Every one of those is a sewer lateral. You can see how busy the site is, and we replaced almost 600 feet of pipe, two manhole runs and 3 manholes. Same thing on Brookline Boulevard. While one's residential, one's commercial. Same thing, we went in, we replaced 2 runs. We went from Darby Road out to the parking lot. Again, every one of these properties has multiple laterals, and it's a very tight, tough sewer. Is a minimum grade sewer. We had a lot of grease problems here with the old sewer system. Here's just a picture. Again, I can show you 100 of these. They'll all start to look the same eventually, but on the left, this is Brookline Boulevard. Notable here, as you can see, the work is being done at night. You can see the lights. Backhoe, sanitary sewer main, loader. This is heavy construction work, and these are, I mentioned we have a lot of laterals. Here's 2 laterals. Look how busy that is. That's a gas main. You can see how tight, look at how tight they are together. Danny will tell you, we fight with these type of utility conflicts all the time. Storm sewer, same thing. We had the first 3 jobs. Again, I showed them on a map because I think it's nice to just get a feel for where everything is. And you'll notice, obviously, most of the infrastructure projects were in the more densely older built-up parts of the township. First 3 projects were bid, planned, storm sewer projects. Lawrence Road, again, was down here, was an emergency repair. We had to make an emergency repair to storm sewer. Couple pictures. This is Euclid Avenue. This is right down the street. You can see this is a large storm sewer. The storm sewer was installed roughly around probably the 50s or 60s. It was starting to collapse. You can see the big piece of equipment needed to put it in. That went from Manel Road all the way up to this intersection. Here's one, Frederick Road and Ellis Road. There's a large storm sewer. It's a 30-inch concrete storm sewer that runs all through the back of these houses all in this neighborhood. It's a little bit of a commentary. It's one of the reasons why today you're not allowed to close streams in and close waterways in, because eventually they back up. So this pipe backed up during one of those heavy, intense rains. We ended up replacing this section of storm sewer, big pipe through these backyards and side yards. And you can see how large that pipe is, and you can see the inlets and storm sewers that we put in. So again, big piece of equipment. Abenizio, by the way. This one's Abenizio. Yeah. In general, all right, just a general category of very different, diverse projects. Again, look, you can see how they're spread out all through the township, and you'll see how frankly how diverse they are. Some of them we already talked about. This was a neat job. We had an old 1970s stormwater basin. The board might remember we talked about this before. Look, you see it's heavily vegetated, large trees. We removed all the vegetation, recontoured it some, put in what's called a 4-bay and a stormwater basin. So have stormwater management. This does not look like this now. This has been planted with plugs, heavily vegetated. That's our PRP, our pollution reduction requirements that we have to meet for the state of Pennsylvania. Probably, so over at the end of our public works yard, and we're not unique, most inner ring suburbs have an old municipal dump. We have an old municipal dump. When you have an old municipal dump and stormwater hits it and runs through it, water seeps out of the ground and it turns orange. That's iron. The iron oxidizes, it turns orange. We collect that, treat it so it doesn't get into Darby Creek. 30 years ago, we put that system in. It worked great up until about 2 years ago. It hit the end of its useful life and replaced the system. You can see it. This is the Darby Creek Trail. It's right along the Darby Creek Trail up at Bus Depot. Streetscape we already talked about. That's the in-progress one. You saw a picture before, showed with the plantings and everything. Lighting, plantings, the brick edging. Again, our pollution reduction plan requirement. This hasn't gone out to bid, but just for design only, we've talked a lot in our MS4 reporting. We have a stream, it's a trib of Darby Creek, and you can see all this erosion. This is the erosion that the DEP is attempting to require us to arrest so that this erosion doesn't end up downstream in Darby Creek. And you can see this erosion undermines trees, and you can see how it cuts back the banks. Very, very difficult permit. Very difficult permit to get. It's reviewed by the state and the Army Corps of Engineers. Used ARPA funds to get the permit. When and if it gets funded, we'll move the project forward. That just gives you an idea of how large this project is. That's 5,000 feet of a tributary, and you do it on both sides. That's up, of course, at the park off of Parkview Drive. We already talked about the parking lot at Mill Creek, 1 Mill Road. That's the site plan. You can see the 22 spots. This is I think this is the last one on the list. Yes, this one's pretty, maybe at least an engineer, really interesting. An interceptor sewer is a large sewer that collects the sewage from the 8-inch collector pipes. This right here, in this left picture, that's a sanitary sewer. That's a 30-inch interceptor that back in the 70s, there's the Clean Water Act put a lot of sanitary sewer infrastructure in. So in 1972, that pipe was 1 foot below the ground, 1 foot below the stream bed, and not anywhere near, not exposed. And you can see this concrete. That concrete was over that pipe back in the 70s. That's how much all this eroded. Now streams move, right? We all know that. So we went in there and took all this vegetation out. We armored the bank so it stops eroding. And right there is where that pipe was. You can see the concrete casement over the top of it. So that's a heck of an improvement. And that pipe, again, being 30 inches in diameter, that takes over half the domestic waste from us and a good bit of Radnor's domestic waste. So we cannot have a compromised piece of pipe there. That's a big improvement. That's everything I have.
Thanks.
Our last category is revenue replacement, where we spent $8.3 million, or 42%. This is one category where the feds really widened the definition at first. When first ARPA came out, it was limited to how much of a loss the government had. So at that time, if we had only lost $3 million, that's all we would have been able to spend under this category. But as I said, the feds, I think, in trying to promote growth and give money to local governments for whatever they needed it for, they did expand the definition. So every local government was allowed to use up to $10 million for this category to determine what they needed in their community. So as the definition says, funds to alleviate financial burdens on local governments to provide general governmental services. And our first speaker is going to be Chief Viola.
Help me out of here. That one, okay.
The police department investment in the money was body cameras for the police officers. We had body cameras on the officers for many years, but they were getting older and we had the opportunity to upgrade them. The in-car cameras have just been finished on the install and everything is operating at the present time. We were able to purchase 2 electric bikes, which we have a bike unit out in the summertime, allows the officers to move quickly and get to areas without exhaustion, especially in the hot weather. Electric vehicles, we bought 4 electric vehicles. One is for Steve Poole for emergency management, which will be an emergency response vehicle. The police department has 1 marked electric vehicle, 2 unmarked. There was delays getting them in just because of ordering issues and manufacturing issues, but they are currently the upfitter right now getting the lights installed, so we hope to see them in service very shortly. We have the speed signs, which we continue to add to our fleet because, as you all well know, the complaints we get for speeding and the other issues with traffic. And that's me. Thank you.
For our almost last presentation, our investment in public works, Dan Mariani, who is our department head in that department, obviously, is going to bring up one of his superintendents who is very integral in purchasing all the heavy equipment that we did under this category. You good with just the...
Oh, he's going to be doing that.
Gary, here's the arrow I'm talking about. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. So in true Public Works forms, we get to go last, and we don't get to talk about anything fun or exciting. At least not, it's exciting to us. Introductions, this is Gary Passetti. He's our vehicle maintenance superintendent. He's going to be going over the purchases, which we have some, but are not all in yet. We should be getting some of them in pretty soon. I'll let him explain what we got.
Hello, everybody. I'm usually the quiet voice from Public Works, so here we go. So a roll-off truck, that's used to carry our 20 and 40-yard dumpsters for recycling, carrying brush, trash, etc. Multi-hook system. This is a new system to us. It's a truck chassis that you're able to replace and swap out the bodies. So you have, here's a flatbed in this picture. You can go from salting to patching potholes in a matter of minutes. Good system from what I see, and Dan would agree, but it's new to us, so we'll have to learn. Snow plow, that's self-explanatory for a snow cleanup. Extreme vac. So we were a little hesitant with this piece of equipment at first, but it turned out to be a very great piece. So it's a one-man operation. Clean up your state roads, your leaves, your storm inlets. Dave, that was brought to us, and it's been great. Dan, do you agree? Okay. Hot box asphalt recycler. So this is also new to us, but from what I'm being told, we can take chunks of asphalt, road millings, place them in the hopper. It rejuvenates it and makes it recyclable to do potholes. And street sweeper, we're just replacing an old piece of equipment that is dated and not cost effective anymore. And that is it for me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And to wrap it up and wrap up my MC duties, Dave is going to finish us off with taking us through some more of the investments we made in public safety and then some final comments.
Okay, if I just speak from here and you do the page now?
Yep.
So we, as the board knows, we purchased a lot of fire apparatus. We've ordered 2 Pierce Enforcer 107-foot aerial trucks. And so they're Quints, and they'll replace Lanark's Tower 34, which is a 2001 piece of apparatus, and Brookline's Ladder 35, which is a 2005 piece. We also purchased a E1 walk-in rescue truck for Manoa. That's going to replace Manoa's Rescue 56. It's a 2006 piece. And we are also replacing Rescue 58, which is Bonair's 2002 KME. We're going to replace that with a new Pierce Enforcer pumper truck. We also ordered, and we've received approximately 65 to 70 air packs for the Bureau of Fire. And moving on, Amy, I've already talked about all this.
I'm sorry.
We, a couple of years ago, the board authorized us to purchase this new Citizen Reporter, which allows folks to use their cell phones or computer devices to go ahead and, I won't say complaints, but let us know what their concerns are, whether it's potholes or streetlights or long grass on your neighbor's property. Folks can go in there and it's been working well. We get reports almost daily, and we could track the days that it takes us to address the report and make sure that they're resolved. We also, in the same system, it's called Tracer. It's a state-of-the-art permitting system that we've implemented most of it so far, and it has been very helpful in tracking the status of permits through the approval process. We don't get a lot of complaints at the township, but I have seen a couple of complaints online where people say it takes a long time to get their permit. And this will allow us to track the day the permit comes in, how long it takes to be approved. So that's going to be helpful in finding areas where we can improve. Yes, so the library parking lot, we're doing some audible pedestrian signals here at Manoa and Darby. We did some safety and solar tinting here at the administration building, and the stadium locker room renovation, of course. And one project, I don't know if I saw it, the resurfacing of the public works yard. It's a big project that we've awarded, and that'll take place for the most part this summer.
And the last one is to assist with the implementation of the new comprehensive plan. We have money obligated to
That's right,
to
for a
do that as
consultant
well.
to go through that process. So this is, it's been a long report. To spend $19 million over the course of, to obligate it within 2 years and to spend it over 5 years is not easy, especially when you're managing a township with 50,000 residents and an operating budget of 50 million. But all the people you heard from tonight are responsible for getting this done. And I don't know how you did it. I don't know how we did it. So thank you to all of you and to the board for helping us get to that place. The boards, the commissions, Discover Haverford, you've all been terrific, really. The library, CBD construction was even involved. Dave Pannoni and Chuck Faulkner, the amount of engineering that went into a lot of these projects, I don't know how you got it done for us so fast, and just, we can only say thank you. Amy, this whole presentation was Amy's. I mean, everybody provided the information to Amy, but obviously Amy led the whole thing, and thank you, Amy, for, and also administering all the grant funds and getting us to where we needed to be. It's remarkable. So, coming full circle, the American Rescue Plan Act, it's called the COVID-19 Stimulus Package, and it was intended to speed up the country's recovery from economic and health effects of the pandemic, right? I think we all felt something during the pandemic, really a traumatic experience for everybody, but we also had true losses here at the township, and every time I give a presentation and talk about the American Rescue Plan Act, I mention Nick Sava from the Oak Mountain Fire Company, who died in December of 2020, and also Sergeant Kevin Redding of the police department, who died just a year later in December of 2021. And so that's all I have. Thank you all for listening and for putting up with us. We just needed to put this all out there.
That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you. Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to our township manager for your leadership.